Okay. All right. Well, welcome everybody. I'm very pleased to invite you to this conversation between two of our guests today, Caren Shiozki and Andrew Jackson. The topic we are addressing is managing your career at a time of incredible economic uncertainty, which is what COVID-19 has produced for us, and which a number of people are both SIM members as well as students going into the field of IT are currently confronting and faced with. These interviews, so we're planning a series of interviews, are sponsored by the SIMDFW Fellows. The Fellows is a group of people, SIM members, that have been recognized for their contributions and years of service to the DFW chapter as well as SIM nationally. Again, these are going to be a series of interviews both regarding how to manage in a crisis and then also how to manage your career in these rather unprecedented times. So my name's Ulricke Schulze, and I am a faculty member at SMU in the ITOM department, which is Information Technology and Operations Management, which is located in the Cox Business School. And I'd like to proceed now with, first of all, welcoming our guests and introducing them real quickly here. So Caren Shiozki is the Executive Vice President and Chief Information Officer at TMST, which is a mortgage company based in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And this is a return to the, for her professionally, to the finance industry. But prior to this position at TMST, she was Vice President and CIO at Belo Corporation here in Dallas, which was the time when Belo still had market-leading TV stations, newspapers, cable, and interactive media assets across the country. And then prior to that, and this is why I was referring to the financial industry experience that she's had, she was at both American Express and Bank of America in both technology and business leading roles. And with regard to SIM, she's not only a fellow of the DFW SIM chapter, but also currently a member of the Arizona SIM chapter and the chair emeritus of the SIM National Board. So our other guest for this conversation is Andrew Jackson, who is the founder and president of Bravo Tech, which is a company that is very engaged in IT staffing. And it's an innovative provider of technology staffing solutions, not only in Dallas, but across the US. It is, has been a very fast-growing business, and they've been recognized, Bravo Tech's been recognized under Andrew's leadership for this growth, both as a recipient of the Inc. 500 fastest growing companies. They've been recognized there 3 times. And then also the SMU Cox School of Business Dallas 100 Award, which they've been given twice. Andrew's also been a phenomenal leader within the SIMDFW chapter, and specifically he's been involved in new chapter development initiatives, and was also, has also served on SIM National. So, very much, providing service for SIM and nationally, both nationally and here in Dallas. So with that, if I've left anything out of the introductions that you would like to add, please feel free to do so. But with that, what I wanted to start out with is how is COVID-19 affecting you in your work, business roles right now? So maybe I can start off with you, Caren.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm in rather an unusual situation because my company is in bankruptcy. And I never thought that working for a bankrupt company would actually be a safe space to be right now. A lot of the work that I do is with the federal courts right now. They're shut down. So we're sort of in limbo, but it's been nice because it's given me a chance to catch up on some other tasks that, I had to put on the back burner. Yeah, we did have, we are going through some budget cuts, if you will, and some activities have been curtailed, but otherwise it's not been too bad. The people that work for me are obviously, they're all still, and I am too, you know, to some extent, about what is actually going to happen in this world because of this pandemic, because this is not like anything else we've ever seen before. So there's a lot of, I see more personal anxiety on the part of my teams as opposed to professional anxiety, because I think people that work for me also realize that being bankrupt is really not a bad thing right now. Oddly enough.
Oddly enough, indeed.
Yeah.
How about you, Andrew? What are you seeing?
Well, I can look at it from two different perspectives. One from my staff, which we've been, you know, we quickly went remote. We were remote capable before this. We had that as an option. And so now working totally remote, it's a different kind of work environment. We tried to adapt with more touches, regular meetings. We use a lot of Teams and then sometimes externally Zoom, a lot of video meetings. But it seems to be internally they're handling it pretty well. Our customers, a lot of projects have been slowed down or put on hold. Even hires that were already recruited and ready to start didn't happen. I think early on, a lot of companies were thinking they weren't sure how long it was going to go, so they held off, especially with the retailers, the retail customers, and they're really starting to feel the effects of now the lockdown, the length of the lockdown. And so they're adjusting now and even letting more people go. I'm hopeful that we're starting to see, you know, a turn that where business will start to come back. But right now it is a stressful time, and having remote capability is huge.
Okay. So one of the things that, you know, our idea with regard to these interviews was to draw on personal stories of SIM members, you know, related to career transitions, you know, major career decisions at a time of incredibly high economic uncertainty. So I wanted to, you know, turn over to you again, Caren, and ask, you know, can you describe such a time where you were faced with some really tough career decisions, partly because of this high economic uncertainty?
Sure. So I left Dallas around the time that the Great Recession was starting to pop up. And I was specifically recruited to TMST here in Santa Fe, because they were a kind of a boutique company, if you will. They were a real estate investment trust, and they only dealt with jumbo and super jumbo mortgages, and they bundled those mortgages and sold them as commercial paper. And you know, I remember thinking, this is of course when all the mortgage companies were going bust. I remember talking to my financial advisor, and he said, that company is really solid. I'm even investing in them because of the market that they do. I mean, you know, the average mortgage was $1 million, right, to people that are prime or super prime clientele. So off I came to Santa Fe. Well, in 2009, we filed for bankruptcy. And at the time, we knew we were heading towards liquidation and not a restructuring. And so by coincidence, the day before the filing, I had been contacted by two friends in Dallas who said, you know, we're starting a consultancy. We really would like you to come back to Dallas and join us, because we've heard that your company's, you know, filed. You know, and by then I knew the employment situation in Santa Fe and New Mexico in general was just horrible. But as much as I loved my two friends, I did not think that they had a good chance of launching a consultancy at that time. And philosophically, I've always believed that things happen for a reason, and there was some reason that I was in this particular company at that point in time. And, you know, I also figured that if I could get end-to-end bankruptcy experience, that might actually be a good skill to have down the road. So that's how I decided to stay in Santa Fe. And, you know, 10 years later, I could say it's paid off.
So Andrew, when you hear that story, is there anything that resonates with you in terms of people in transition, and especially sort of at a time of incredible uncertainty, you know, things that you would say to them, advice you would give?
Well, yeah, a part of what Caren's story talked about how she networked and she had friends that were out there in business, and it's never too late to get started doing that and building your, just like SIM, we're members of SIM, and there's such value in being connected to peers outside your four walls of your company, so that when you do find yourself in a situation, you've got options. You know, so many times I've heard from people in transition that they've said, you know, I was heads down, I was a producer, I'm a good worker, and then someone came in and said, you know, we're gonna have to let you go, or we've had a change of management, or we just got acquired, and your operation is a duplication of the acquiring company, and for no reason of their own, they're out of business, and that is why the value of having a network is so important, so that you can call on other people to help you when you face that transition. So that's my message: is network before, and then even afterwards. It's important to keep that going.
One of the things that I heard in Caren's story is sort of this certainty at some level that things happen for a reason, which, you know, at some level sounds like it was very grounding at that point in time. Caren, could you maybe talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, you know, you do have to, you have to learn to step back. And I realize for some people that's really not easy. And I guess because for me in my position, for the number of years I've been working, I could do that because I had the benefit of having years of working and years of working through different kinds of crises where you know that there's always a reason. And, you know, if you stay focused, things will actually work out the way they're supposed to work out.
So Andrew, what do you think about this idea of staying focused? You know, when again you help quite a number of people at a time of transition. What is this focus? You know, how do you advise them on focus, or what have you seen that works with regard to staying focused?
I think the first thing is to be emotionally solid, that you get past the part that you are in transition, and that it is a tough time, and then is to marshal your own resources to focus on things that can make you more marketable, externally marketable. And I think about, you know, a time like this when someone might be in transition, is to sit back and look at how they are presenting themselves to the world. And you can look at things like your LinkedIn profile and take time to update that. Make sure you've got your picture updated. Make sure that your employment status is right. Make sure that you've got several references out there. You want to focus on looking good outside. You know, you can look at your resume. There's a lot of things people can do to update their resume, and get a third party or another party to look at that to help make sure that's clean. Work on your elevator pitch. You know, you want to talk to people and let them know your situation, but not just that. You want to say, here's how you can help me. I'm looking for this, and be able to articulate what it is that you're looking for, that ideal job. And then the other thing, especially now in this time, is think about how you appear on video. How, you know, what is your video setup? Do you have a good lighting? Do you have a good background? You know, what do you look like to the other party? So work on your video techniques. Use a couple different tools. Understand that with the differences between Teams and Zoom and Blue Jeans, you know, there's a lot of different products out there, different features, so that you're not caught off guard. Because especially now, the first interview process, a lot of it's going to be done this way, through video. And so you can't be somebody that doesn't understand how to work in this environment.
I'm sorry.
So those are the cleaners. Yeah, I think that's a good point about you know, figuring out what it takes to look good on camera, right? In this kind of environment, and how to make sure that, you know, somebody doesn't interrupt you in the middle of the conversation.
It happens.
Indeed, it does. Caren, so I mean, with regard to your own transition, is there anything that you feel you'd like to highlight about that experience that you feel could help somebody today in this COVID-19 time to deal with that?
Sure. So my company, after we had filed, we got caught up in various issues that resulted in the CEO being fired. And then we were eventually taken over by the US Bankruptcy Court with a trustee appointed by the US Attorney's Office. And that's who I report to today. So in addition to working on the bankruptcy and having to still do CIO stuff, I suddenly found myself immersed in the world of litigation. So shortly after our filing, I got ISACA's certification in the governance of enterprise information and technology, and that proved to be very useful to reinforce my expertise and credibility during depositions and testimonies that I was now forced to have to participate in. And also, as part of our troubles, I had to part ways with my CISO. And therefore, I found myself having to wear that hat as well. So I focused on deepening my cybersecurity skills. I educated myself to be able to work on the many lawsuits that we're involved with, both as a defendant and as a plaintiff. And I decided to get certified as an e-discovery specialist. And so now I oversee all of the litigation support efforts. And that's actually kind of enforce yes, I'm kind of very useful to you, to the attorney team, because in the past, they've never really had somebody who could do e-discovery with the depth of technology knowledge that I have. Usually it's a paralegal or an office manager type person. That's who they were used to working with. And so part of my IT professional pedigree is also in business intelligence. And so because I have those skills, they've asked me to also perform forensic data analysis for a lot of the cases. And now I'm currently studying for a certification in cybersecurity.
Wow. So it really sounds, go ahead.
I was just going to jump on that. What Caren did is so smart too. Is like, if she's doing that while she's working, but someone's out of work, continuing education is so important. And also it's being busy. You know, if I'm going to interview somebody, I want to say, what are you doing? You know, are you bettering yourself? And even if you're using your skills for some external charity, maybe you're using your IT skills for them, or a church or whatever synagogue. That's so important that you're not just sitting around watching TV. That you're active and you give back. Organizations, again, mentioned SIM, giving back to organizations. So that's a big thing, is to keep active and continuing that way.
Yeah, I think, again, I was going to comment on something similar, which is, that you've in some ways rewritten the story of your career, right, by getting, these various certifications. And so I think to some extent, which is a hard thing to do, is to figure out who am I, right, in especially at a time of transition, but to keep working on that, who am I, what can I do, what can I contribute, and to Andrew's point, how am I currently contributing, which I guess, even if it means volunteer work and so on, that's a really important piece also for mental health and staying positive, right? And staying the course and keeping that focus and a positive focus, right? It sounds like that was part of the story you were telling us too, Caren.
And I'll accent one more thing there, is that, and you can, in today's environment, and that you can operate in a remote environment. And so you understand the tools and the networking, and that expanding upon that capability is important.
Really key. Okay. All right. Any other last thoughts to share on, for people, both students as well as SIMDFW members who find themselves at a time of transition at this time? Any other sort of thoughts that come to mind?
Well, and this is actually playing out right now with the folks that work for me who are, kind of nervous, So when the economy was blowing up and my company was really starting to implode, people were understandably nervous and stressed, kind of like what you see today. So when that happens, you can't focus. And as I mentioned earlier, focus is really key. And when you can't focus, your productivity fails, right? And then your attitude will just get bad naturally. That isn't an image you want to project even in the best of times, but more so in times of crisis. And so I would tell, and I am telling my teams that, you really should focus on what you can control. I mean, there's nothing they can do about the market. There's nothing they can do about the virus, and they can't tell the investors what to do, but they can excel at doing the job they were hired to do. And they can take the initiative to keep developing and reinventing themselves for what comes next. And I think that professional attitude and self-motivation is what's going to get noticed. And I always say, that when the tide goes out, you'll see who's not wearing pants. So I tell them, don't get caught in your underwear.
And at a time of, where we're all sort of digital and virtual, right? That's a very apt metaphor.
Like Andrew, I hope you're wearing pants for this.
I'm not going to stand up. The thing that I take from what Caren was saying, and I agree 100%, is stay positive. A positive attitude is contagious, and people can tell, who do I want on my team when I'm talking to somebody? I want somebody that's positive. I want somebody that's got grit, can get through the situation, and also that knows there's going to be an end to this. There's an end. Things are going to get better. So someone that's a half full type of person, that's who I want on my team. So that's, in short, be positive.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I guess with that, we'll wrap it up. I really wanted to thank you both for sharing your experiences and your insights. And hopefully a lot of people who are listening to this will find this helpful and inspiring, because I certainly found it inspiring to listen to the both of you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.